Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Very Factual Podcast. We're your hosts, Kayla.
And Izabella, and we saw the Premier League title race heat up once more this weekend with Arsenal and Man City playing each other.
Yes, so an important game, Manchester City versus Arsenal, was played on Sunday and shockingly tied 0-0. Manchester City dominated this game and took control over Arsenal, but that was expected in my opinion because City is City and Arsenal is a younger squad, but they didn't let their guard down because they did keep the score 0-0 and didn't stop them from gaining 1 point and staying in first place in the Premier League with City just one close point behind them.
I was actually very surprised with the result. It was almost disappointing, but I guess it's fair because both teams are very good. I think we wanted to see more drama because we're both kind of neutral, but I expected more action, especially attacking wise, because both teams have very good forward lines and very good players. But Arsenal sat back and they just didn't take their opportunities.
No, yeah, I agree. It was pretty disappointing the score because they were both kind of fighting for that first place spot right there. But I mean, something else that we said from the start was that City would easily win this Premier League, but
Hmm.
clearly that's not the case. It's not so easy. But at this point, I still believe that they'll win because they are only 1 point behind Arsenal and they are still fighting. But the fact that the game ended in a 0-0 proves how close that title race is.
Yeah, it's like Arsenal, they I think they kept it tight. They didn't want to make mistakes against City, and it looked like City did not want to make mistakes against Arsenal. Like both teams, they didn't want to slip up, and you kind of have to give it to them. They did what they had to do. I think Arsenal defended really well, and that's really all they did in the game. Like Saliba was man of the match, and that kind of tells you that
Hmm.
Arsenal didn't really do anything. And I don't think there was a spark from both teams, especially I never thought we would see a team like win in this game, and it kind of just shows how good they are, I guess. Like
Yeah.
you said, they're both in the title race. City, they broke Arsenal a couple times and they made some good plays. They were probably the closest to scoring good goals. Like Gvardiol, he had a really good game. Like he played down the wings and he kept feeding balls into the box, and I thought that was very good. I That was probably the only positive.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there was no spark of attack
Mhm.
from either team that stayed constant. Like you just said, sure there were a few really good plays of attacking, but there were also really good plays of defending and everything. There was no one team that was really offensive or really defensive. They both kind of were too afraid to make mistakes and lose the game.
Yeah, I think City are probably more disappointed with the draw
Hmm.
because they could have potentially got a goal. Like Arsenal, I think they'll take it because we saw how often City were at their net, and you know City had the more clear opportunities and they were closer to the 3 points than Arsenal. And I think both teams, they have their strong suits, and that's what causes them to almost cancel each other out. And I think that's the reason why we saw a 0-0.
Yeah, I agree.
I I think also something I noticed is I mentioned Arsenal's defense a little earlier. Arsenal silenced Haaland.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
did not see him in the game once. He had 23 shots the whole game and 4 shots on target, and I feel like he's a good player. We can't really say that much. Like he got 52 goals last season. I just feel like he waits for the ball to get to him, and especially in bigger games, and especially in this game, I would have expected him to do something in a game like this. I would expect him to help his team. I know being a striker is about scoring goals, but sometimes you have to assist your teammates.
Yeah, he's very much of a player who just kind of sits up front and waits for the ball and takes his shots because he's got a really good shot. But before, I feel like when he was building up his career, he had those technical skills and everything, and now
Yeah.
he's kind of just more of an offensive player, and he sticks to that role so he can. I think he's more about his stats now than his skills. This many goals. I need to score goals because I'm Holland.
Yeah, I feel like also, especially since he went to City, he has really good players around him. So I think that's
Hmm.
why he kind of sits up more. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? That's
No, yeah.
probably how Pep told him to play. But I feel like maybe sometimes you have to make your own decisions and help your team out a little bit. And one last point, I'm kind of surprised how City haven't had, like, their unstoppable run this season, and I seriously don't see it coming, do you?
I don't either. I mean, we mentioned before how they're gonna have this run again, they're gonna have this run again, but it's kind of like too late a little bit to have another run, and also judging by
Yeah.
how they're playing, like, they did have a little bit of a peak moment, and there was, like, a week or 2 that they had a good games, and you thought they were gonna go on a run, but then they fell again. But,
Mhm.
that's clearly not gonna stop them because they're in 2nd right now, only 1 point away from 1st.
Yeah, and we know City, they're not gonna run away with the title like they did in
Mhm.
past seasons, and it's between 3 teams, and this result, the 0-0, is probably something that Liverpool are very excited about. They should be, like, cheering because
Yes.
Liverpool are top right now. I believe they're on 67 points, and, if Arsenal would have got 3 points, they would have went top, so I think it's good for Liverpool, but it's very sad for the other 2 teams in this
Yeah,
race.
for sure.
And speaking of Liverpool, they continued their fight for the Premier League title with a 2-1 win against Brighton. Liverpool would go behind early in the game with an amazing strike by Danny Welbeck, but Liverpool fought their way back later in the game with a 27th minute goal by Diaz and a 65th minute goal by Mohamed Salah, taking Liverpool to the top of the table. Okay, I just want to talk about the title race for a little bit. We talked about it like the last game, but Liverpool are top of the table now with 67 points. And now if Liverpool win, this is a statistic, or not a statistic, but it's a fact. If Liverpool now win every single game till the end of the season, they win the title, period. Kayla, it's pretty simple, isn't it? Do you think they could
It's
do
n
it?
so simple to win every single game until the end of the season. I mean, I think it's possible, but I don't think I had it's a very low chance. Like, I feel like there's just so much pressure onto them that
Mm-hmm.
they're not gonna be able to do it.
Like, they actually have, like, a really easy run of games. I believe there's 12 games left, and all of them are quite easy. So, like, it's possible. Like you said, it's possible, but it's gonna be very hard because 'cause we've seen Liverpool have some slip ups this season, and now I
Yeah.
think Liverpool are, like, title favorites. Like, I
I
genuinely
think
think so.
I think they are one of the title favorites, yeah, it's from the I don't think that Arsenal is gonna keep their title. If they are,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be surprised. I think, either Liverpool or City will swoop in and take it. But, just judging by how Liverpool has been this season, I think they're gonna, like, win, like, the next, like, few games, and then they're gonna have 1 slip up or 2, and
Mhm.
it's just gonna cost them that title.
Like, I'm very excited to see how this is gonna go down. Like, this is gonna go down right down to the wire. I think it's gonna go down, like, till the last game of the season. I think
Mhm.
that's what how it's gonna be decided, and now all 3 of these teams, they literally have to go full speed. You just have to look straight. You cannot screw up now because if you do, it's gonna
It's
cost you.
over, it's pretty much
Yeah,
over.
and I have, like, one more little thing on this game. I just have a
Mhm.
little bit. Mohamed Salah. So he had the most amount of shots he's ever had in a Liverpool shirt in this game, and he only made one. That's insane, isn't it?
That's actually insane. I mean, speaking of shots though, just real quick, Liverpool had 30 shots compared to
Yeah.
Brighton, who only had 9. I just had to mention that because I see that right in front of me right now. I think that's pretty insane and shows how Liverpool is really playing now. So tying back to that title race, like if they keep this up, they have a really high chance.
Yeah, and I mean Salah, he's a great player, but sometimes he almost like
Yeah,
conflicts himself. Like sometimes he could be the most unstoppable player in the world. I mean, he is. He's a really good player, don't get me wrong, but
yeah.
there's also times where he just makes such bad mistakes and it costs Liverpool. So I just thought that was very funny. And I thought maybe he should have had more goals in this game and it should have been maybe like 4-1.
Oh yeah, for sure. But saying that that's the most goals he's had in one game in a Liverpool shirt, like he should have definitely scored more than one goal. But at least he got one. Because if he didn't get any,
Mhm.
that'd be pretty embarrassing for him. Manchester United traveled to G-Tech Community Stadium to play Brentford on Saturday and tied it up 1-1. The 1-1 seems like a boring score, the goals weren't. The game stayed pretty even, but as time went on, Brentford started pushing and taking shots on United, pressuring them and forcing their defense back. But it wasn't until 6 minutes added time after 90 minutes when United counterattacked and Mason Mount scored the United's goal. Since the goal was so late, the game was expected to end 1-0 in favor of United, but Brentford had other plans, and just 3 minutes after United's goal, they scored, tying it up, ending it in a 1-1 score. And honestly, this game wasn't that surprising, I want to say. I thought it'd be a pretty even match, and it was expected for the amount of shots taken. But I need to mention the stats just real quick because it's insane to me how
Mhm.
Brentford had 31 shots while United only had 11. Like Brentford almost had triple the amount of shots taken, but still the score speaks for itself.
I it might be my United hatred, but I thought they were so bad. Like,
They didn't live up to
no.
expectations.
Last was it last week or 2 weeks ago in the FA Cup, they knocked Liverpool out, and that's like a one-off result. Like they've been inconsistent this whole season. Like they've had like maybe two games, maybe three at the most, where they were really good and they just, go back down. I They managed to get a result without playing well, which I feel like United does a lot. And I
Yeah.
genuinely think this is probably one of their worst performances of the season.
I think so too. I feel like for me, there was this part that was like they're not gonna play good. So I kind of
Mm-hmm.
expected them to not because how they knocked Liverpool out and everything, it gave them this false sense of confidence. And I feel like they just kind of sat back
Mm-hmm.
in this game and played awful. And they're so inconsistent because I feel like their team is full of people who are like, yeah, we gotta do good. We just knocked Liverpool out, so this is gonna be easy peasy. And then
Yeah.
they end up playing awful. And luckily they still got a result like they usually do recently, but, then if they, like, lose a bunch of games, then they're like, "Oh, we gotta, like,
Yeah.
put our heads in the game," you know? But
I
sorry,
Go ahead.
something about this United's goal, it was scored by Mason Mount.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's kind of shocking because a few weeks ago or months ago, I don't know, whenever he signed, we were so against him. And now he's kind of producing for United. Sure, it's only one goal so far, but it's still something.
Yeah, I mean, Mason Mount, this is his first United goal, and he's been literally out injured for like the whole
Mhm.
season.
Yeah.
So I thought it was so funny, especially he was a former Chelsea player. So, I used to like him a lot. I thought he would stay, but he didn't. So I don't like him now because he is on United. But Brentford, let's just talk about Brentford for a little bit. Brentford could have easily went away with the win, I feel like. And you kind of have to we have to like kind of congratulate them. I thought they worked their butts off. They could have had like 3, 4 goals like
Mhm.
in the game,
Easily.
not in the added time that whole mess. And the fact that they're just outside relegation too, and they could have won against Manchester United just like shows you what kind of team United are. There's absolutely no plan. It looks like these players are just thrown out there. Also, another similarity with Chelsea, but talk about that later. And you can't really even blame injuries anymore. Like they have Lissandro Martinez back. He came back to his game. Mason Mount back, scored a goal, and they pretty much had their Eric Ten Hag. He had his first choice team, and I seriously don't know like what is their problem.
I mean, they're just so there's no other word to describe it than inconsistent because they like as a United fan, they bring my hopes up and I'm like, yes, they're gonna do so amazing. They might just
Mm-hmm.
step it up just a little bit more in the Premier League. And then they give us this. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a result. Yeah, we got a point, but it should have been 3 points. And that's just how it should have been.
Chelsea threw more points away on Saturday, managing only a 2-2 draw with Burnley. Chelsea looked to have the lead in the 19th minute by a goal by Axel Disasi, but it was chopped off due to a handball. I don't think it was a handball, but it's okay. Chelsea would redeem themselves in the 43rd minute by a penalty by Cole Palmer, of course, giving Chelsea the lead into the second half. The lead did not last long as Josh Cullen would equalize for Burnley in the 46th minute, and then Cole Palmer would rescue Chelsea once again in the 78th minute, but shortly after, Chelsea managed to lose the lead again by a Dara O'Shea goal, sharing scoring, the points, I'm very disappointed. Like
As
we
you should be.
we always throw away points. Like I don't
Mhm.
get it, guys. It's not that hard. Like the majority of the game was 11 against 10. We should have the advantage and we can't even keep a lead. Like come on. Like
Yeah, I mean, the fact that one of Chelsea's goals was a penalty, and
mhm.
sure, you can argue that the handball wasn't actually handball, but I feel
Mhm.
like that wouldn't have changed the outcome. I feel like Burnley would have pushed and still managed to somehow tie it up because the way Chelsea plays is like if they're in the lead, they kind of let go of themselves after and like, okay, we're in the lead, you can do whatever. Blah, blah, blah. And Burnley took advantage of that, and they with
Mhm.
only 10 men against 11 for
Yeah.
like what, like more than half the game.
Yeah, for real.
It's just like the fact that they were able to do that against a club like Chelsea who doesn't live up to their name anymore. I'm
Mhm.
hating on them because you hated on Man
No, but I'm
United.
hating on them too. So like
But it's like the fact that they were able to do that and they still played really well. I mean, yes, they got a red card, but like Chelsea dominated stats,
mhm.
but that doesn't prove really anything at this point because they tied. To Chelsea, they should
Mhm.
count this as almost a loss.
Like we like you said, I think we should have lost at the end, to be honest with you. Like
Mhm.
I thought we were actually, and it's just kind of like appalling because Chelsea, like the club, should not let this happen, especially with like the name that they carry. And like we seriously don't even know what to do when we have an advantage. Like 11 against 10, we were just like, we're like alienated. Like we seriously don't know what to do. We're lost. I feel like we don't have like a direction where we're going. Like I said for United, we're it looks like we're just thrown out there. We have
Yeah,
so many play. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. No, you go.
Okay, I think we have a lot of players with potential, right? But we just can't click because these players don't belong together. Like we do not have any real leaders in this team. The only reason we get goals is because of Cole Palmer and he is like our savior. I like love him. I will cherish him. I'm just so happy he wanted to come to Chelsea in the first
Yeah.
place. It's just like if it wasn't for him, we would have lost this game.
Oh, yeah, like, easily lost this game, like,
Mhm.
4-0 loss because Cole Palmer, without him, you Chelsea would not have gotten half the goals they have
Mhm.
gotten, and I feel like Chelsea as a club when they're on the field, if something doesn't go exactly how they played it out in their head or in their practices, it's not gonna work out for them. They don't have that open mindset where
Mhm.
it's like, "Oh, if this happens, this could also happen." They have, like, these set things that will happen, and if it doesn't go that way, they kind of disperse and just kinda do their own independent thing.
Yeah, it's just like I'm really fed up and I know like a lot of fans are. If you just look at comments on under any like Chelsea thing ever, it's just
Yeah.
everyone is so mad. Like no one knows what they're doing. No one in the team is leading. We have a young team with literally zero experience and I just it's all the owner's fault. It's all like the board's fault. They avoided all experienced players. They thought they could create like a young superstar team and now we end up here and we can't get rid of these players because they are on 8-year deals and that's going to be a lot of money to like send them off. Like they're not going to leave if they don't get paid for the 8 years. Like it's
No, I
what did they
agree.
do? They ruined everything.
Yeah, I mean, just to go back to like, the social media thing that you said, I am reading some comments underneath one of Chelsea's most recent Instagram posts. One of them says they feel bad for Palmer because he's the only one doing something right now, and another one
Mhm.
says they're worried about Chelsea because they shouldn't be like this with only 40 points. And then another one says we'll only survive one day and then fall back down. Like that just proves how much like in unison everyone is.
Yeah. It's like ridiculous. And like I said, it all comes down to the owners. Like we're
Mhm.
spending 100 million pounds on some like random teenager Brazilian prodigy that has played a couple games in like the Brazilian league. He's not gonna cut it in the Premier League. Like, are
I
you
feel
joking?
like I feel like Chelsea might have another, spark in 6 years,
Oh my
5,
gosh.
6 years when these young players that they just bought grow up with the
Hmm.
tactics with Chelsea, or they might just end up leaving. Who knows?
Yeah.
But that's just like not enough right now because they need results now. You
Yeah,
as a
like
club, you always need results. You can't just be like, oh, maybe not this year, but next. No, you always want to try.
yeah, and I don't think our players are bad. Like
Mm-mm.
individually, they're not bad. Like Enzo Fernandez, he's a World Cup winner. He was amazing at the World Cup. Caicedo, he was amazing at Brighton before he came. He was so sought after, and but just like them playing together, we've spent like 200 million pounds on that midfield, Enzo and Caicedo alone. It makes each like them look bad, and they're not bad players. It's just like they don't belong together in the same team, and I just don't know what to do.
I feel like one of Chelsea's downfalls is that they look at the player, not the team. Like
Mm-hmm.
when they're signing people, they're like, "Oh, this player will be great," or "This player is great at his like
Mm-hmm.
old club team or his national team," but they don't look at how they will fit in with the squad they've already signed. And I feel like that's definitely one of Chelsea's biggest, downfalls.
Yeah, it's just because the owners that we have, they're so American.
Into
It
names.
Yeah, and it's just like because they own the Dodgers to the LA Dodgers, and it's just like in a baseball team, you could buy, just a player because of his name, and it won't really matter because I feel like baseball is almost more like individual, like you hit the ball and you run. So
Hmm.
you can sign the best player in the world at hitting the ball, and it won't like even if they're bad, it won't really affect the team. But in a sport like soccer, you have to work together.
Like you have to pass, you have to
Mm-hmm.
constantly communicate. Like you said in baseball, it's kind of like, yeah, it's a team. Yeah, you work together, but it's more of an individual roles. While
Yes.
in soccer, even if you know an offense player, sometimes you need to come back and help defense.
Yeah.
So it's more
Well,
of a team thing.
yeah. And that's my mini rant on Chelsea. Our mini rant.
Yes.
And
And
that's
yep,
yeah.
that's it. That's all we have for you guys today. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to follow our Instagram and YouTube at Very Factual Podcast.